trying to make me believe that I ain't got no TB. I got the TB blues. Well, it rained down sorrow and it rained all over me. Yeah, it rained down sorrow and it rained all over me. Oh, my body rattles like a train on that old SP. I got the TB blues. Well, I got that old TB, boy, I can't eat a bite. I got that old TB, Lord, and I can't eat a bite. Got my word in my soul, so I can't even sleep at night. I got the TB blues. I've been fighting like a lion, but it looks like I'm gonna lose. Been fighting like a lion, but it looks like I'm gonna lose. 'Cause there ain't nobody ever beat them TB blues. I got the TB blues. Well, gee, but the graveyard sure is a lonesome place. Oh, gee, but that graveyard sure is a lonesome place. They put you on your back, pull that dirt down in your face. I got the TB blues.
Hi there, and welcome back to my channel. We're here with another installment of the history of popular music before the internet happened and sucked all the cash out. A series which I started my YouTube channel with, and when I began, I first did, my very first episode was about Jimmy Rodgers, about having seen a sign when I was on tour playing, going out west, playing shows down in Meridian, Mississippi for a museum for Jimmy Rodgers. And I'm back here today with the TB Blues after having, like all of you, gone through this past year where we had a plague of sorts, I guess. And I'm hoping that this finds you well. And I hope that you and your loved ones are all very well indeed. And that you weathered this unprecedented situation in terms of the ways that our modern society tried to deal with it, certainly, but also just all the different sorts of ins and outs. Not that we haven't had plagues before or pandemics before. We certainly have. And as a matter of fact, at the time of TB Blues, Mr. Rodgers, unfortunately, would not be able to recover because they couldn't treat TB back then as they can now. Actually, he was recording TB Blues in a collection of songs that he put on a record, which would be his final record. He would die when he was actually in New York City recording the album, and on a break, he and his nurse went to a sightseeing visit out to Coney Island, and Mr. Rogers would pass away there at 34 years old in 1933. In any case, he was a very important figure, not only in his impact on country and Western music, which is obvious, but actually even on world music. And what I mean by that is Jimmy Rodgers was a synthesizer of multiple strands that had been disparate elements that had been their own things from their own cultures that he brings together, coalesces into this melting pot of ideas of his, and comes up with this yodeling brakeman, the singing cowboy, who, with the oompa music of the Germans and the German immigrants, and of course the Swiss Alps and the yodeling. What that has to do with string tunes from the British Isles, I don't know. It certainly doesn't have a lot to do with the blues of Black Americans, former slaves in the South. He brings together, though, a number of disparate things to create his own sort of style, some sort of unique take on things. And in and of itself, I think that sort of points to a promise of America in a way that's there in the music, and that the notion is that of self-actualization, that one can be whatever they want to be. Jesus was never a prophet in his hometown, as they say, but you could come to America and do your own thing, whatever that may be. And that's certainly been part of it. It's not all great, obviously, as I've touched on many times. Lots of eggs were broken on the way, I guess, but and there's no denying any of that for sure. Certainly, the thrust of the West has been such that it has caused a lot of harm around the world as well. But the notion that anybody could be anything that they wanted, no matter where they are, is almost like the French law code, with Napoleon going around, "Hey, you serfs, come fight for me," And I think that is in Jimmy Rodgers' music and in his verve, his sort of this pastiche with which he was delivering his thing. But it was also a tragic sort of situation as well, where he was making that record where he would die there with the TB and everything, so that, because he knew he was dying, of course, he'd had TB for a while, knew he was going to check out. He's just trying to leave something for his wife and his kid, to a collection of songs that would bring in money for them. But the man had been a superstar also, and that's something to be said. He was the Kanye West of his day. He was actually, he's bigger than Kanye. I mean, he's bigger than, I don't think there is anybody, actually, because of the internet and stuff. It's interesting because, in those halcyon days, he's starting out it's unprecedented at that time for someone to achieve the level of fame that he had, or that he was able to, rather. Like I say, in 1930, he cut aside with Louis Armstrong playing the cornet, Dixieland jazz style with his yodeling ass, which was, up to that point, had never been done, not in American music at any rate. While black and white people had played music together plenty, there had certainly not been any records put out with two guys together like that. So, featuring Louis Armstrong, as they say. But at that time, there was a chance for a pantheon of stars for folks to look up to. Dreams were still readily available. Pandora's box hadn't been opened on the world. And I think that is a beautiful thing. I think that we need to try and figure out how to get back there somehow, if it's at all possible. I don't know that it is. But ultimately, I think that, he is a character, right? And that character that he portrayed was one that he made, like I say, he self-actualized. he sort of, and it would be so impactful that, like I say, when he was, okay, put it to you this way. I've talked about his influence on Hank Williams. I've talked about his influence on Lefty Frizzell, Ernest Tubb, all those country people, right? But did you know that Jimmy Rodgers was, Howlin' Wolf's favorite singer when he was coming up as a kid? That most of those old blues guys were listening to Jimmy Rodgers records, because it was that big, it was everywhere, pervasive, radio, and records, 78 RPM records of his performances. I'll give you another example, just to sort of tie a bow on it a little bit here, and I'm gonna have to use I know this is really silly. Unfortunately, I don't have time to do it any better, so this is gonna have to be credited to Wikipedia because of my own laziness at the moment. In any case, for instance, a song Kimarikara III, collected by ethnomusicologist Hugh Tracy in 1950 from the Kipsigis tribe, was written in honor of Jimmy Rodgers. The song's title is an approximation of the musician's name. According to legend, tribe members were exposed to Rodgers' music through British soldiers during World War II. Impressed by his yodeling, they envisioned Rodgers as a fawn, half man and half antelope. So really, he was the proto jackalope, is what he was. But I'd like to think that we could somehow loosen up our collars and let ourselves be entertained in the future, such that we could hear a fawn coming out with an antelope and a fawn or whatever the hell that was, at those speakers to us, and that the wonder of that music was there. And that's something that I would like to see, but that's sort of how this series started, was me contemplating all these things and wanting to use popular music over the 20th century into now to try and explain different things that have happened culturally and so on. And I'm ready to get back into that. I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of all the bullshit. I'm ready to get back to some sort of normalcy, or whatever you call it, normality rather. So this is the start of that, I hope, for me. Again, I'm going back to that same old well, but I have episodes about Western swing that I would like to get back to. Lots of different topics. Spade Cooley, as they say, has yet to be unearthed in this program, and other genres of music. Because like I say, the amalgamation of things in the West and in America rather has been the one, I think, good thing about that sort of breaking down of cultural barrier. It's interesting. I'll leave you with this thought. Edmund Burke, the classical conservative, right, was a conservative. There's no doubt. If you read notes on the French Revolution, the man was a conservative. But he also brought charges against the governor of the East India Company for mistreating the native Indian people, for not allowing them to practice their traditional ways of life. And I think that that's sort of fascinating. I wish we had conservatives like that nowadays. No offense, y'all. But in any case, I hope that this finds you well. And we'll see you soon. Cheers.